Good afternoon from paradise. I'm Crypto Amaru. That's Crypto Hitman. It is Friday, June 28th. We are talking politics. That's the timely topic right now, obviously, with the Trump and Biden debate. We want to focus in on how this might affect markets in particular. Also, some news dropped related to inflation that I believe is positive. We get into that and maybe some other similarly related topics. Before we jump in, one reminder. This is the only channel. You like, subscribe, follow, and engage, and you can win trips to paradise at the Paradise Pad. So remember to do that. All right, so Nick, yesterday was crazy. I don't know if you watched the whole thing. I didn't even watch the whole thing. I missed the beginning actually, but I saw some clips. What was your initial take on the Trump to Biden debate, and particularly how that impacts markets in particular?
Well, I mean, you missed in the beginning is you kind of missed the most important part. That's by the end, Biden was looking better, and he was still looking terrible. His first 7 minutes was very rough. Overall, pretty laughable. Obviously, there's some funny moments you kind of laugh at it, and then it becomes kind of sad because you realize, like, wow, this is what the leader of the free world, the leader of the global reserve currency of the world, is going to be. Either Biden, who obviously mentally has decayed, could barely finish a sentence, fell flat on his face to the point where CNN and Democrats, right after the debate, because I watched the post show, within 3 minutes are talking about who is going to replace Biden. So you know that's bad. And then you got Trump over there, probably his best debate ever. That's not saying all that much, but very calm, cool, collected, kind of let Biden bury himself. But still does his repetitiveness, doesn't answer the questions all the time. And at one point, they even argued about who's got the better golf game because Trump brought up that he won 2 tournaments in golf. Now, Trump can swing a little bit, but let's be honest, I don't think anybody's purposely trying to beat Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Otherwise, they're going to be kicked out of that parade as well. So his ego's a little inflated. Now, how did it affect markets directly? Bitcoin was not brought up. Unfortunately, it didn't come up. CNN wasn't going to ask the question. The only way it was going to come up is if Trump kind of superimposed it because he is very pro Bitcoin. If he wanted to rally the troops, he could have did it. He did not do it. I think it's more just the conversation never steered in that direction. It kind of kept coming back to illegal immigration and the mishandling of the border and stuff like that. Maybe they're supposed to have another debate in September. Maybe Bitcoin and monetary policy will come up more in that. We did see that in the meme coins. The Biden meme coins absolutely got slaughtered down 40, 50, 60%. I think that tells you all you need to know about who won the debate. The Trump coins didn't do too much, but Trump coins were somewhere between -5% to up 10, 15%. Biden coins went nearly to zero, down 40, 50%. It was awful. And then also for those who do the betting odds of who is going to be the presidential candidate, Trump's odds, they went up by like 28%, meaning 28% of the betting said we're starting to lean towards Trump. And then also Biden went up 28%. The chance of Biden getting replaced went up 28% after that debate. So I don't know. It's pretty hectic. Bitcoin down to 60,000 again today, since it wasn't really mentioned. And again, the meme coins, Biden meme coins got decimated. Trump meme coins barely got you any green bars, kind of were front run before the debate. So not much really impact on the crypto market as a whole. What do you have to add?
Yeah, no, it's not in the near term because I don't think any of this stuff is near term impact. It's all longer term. Who actually wins the election, and then what sort of policies do they put in place, and who do they put in charge of regulatory bodies and so on. But yeah, that debate was wow. I mean, it was super cringe. I was getting DMs from my friends, and you saw it on crypto Twitter, and I mean, no one was happy. But God, if you're Biden or a Biden supporter, I think it's over. I mean, I don't see how. Now we don't have. We're not in a country where you have to get 100% of the votes or whatever. There's going to be plenty of people that stick with Biden no matter what, just as they would stick with Trump no matter what. That's the nature of the polarized country that we live in. But you only have to win that sliver of sort of undecideds in the swing states. And I don't see how you watch Biden and that performance he gives and say this guy is fit to be president.
Right. And the
Regardless of what
fact,
he did in the past, you may be happy with this or that policy, but I mean, and we're talking Biden. I think he's 81, and so he's going to be 84. It's just going to get. It's not going to
right.
get better. Don't get more acute and sharper as you get older. It gets worse. So I don't see how anyone watching that debate comes away from saying he's my guy. Like
Right.
that's the guy.
Well, I
Right?
mean, the fact that literally Democrats in his party and CNN, which is the more left-leaning political media, whatever, immediately, I'm talking, they cut away from the stage, they did their post roundup, and they're saying, wow, Biden needs to be replaced. They said that live on air. That's crazy. That tells you everything you need to know. And what I tell my followers is, look, if, like you said, if you don't like Trump, that's one thing. If you want to vote for Trump, great. That's who I think has the likelihood to win, so your vote probably counts more. If you want to vote for RFK Jr., I tuned into his that he did on Twitter. I still commend you. Fine, you want to vote for RFK Jr., but to say Trump, Biden's my guy, I'm voting for Biden, when you're looking at these three options or the other option, which you just don't vote at all, I don't understand how anybody could pick Biden after that and what's going on in the country and everything else. So, in my opinion, RFK Jr., no vote, or Trump all makes sense to me. A Biden vote, like you said, I just don't understand how you can. Now you saw it live on stage. They can't lie about it when the guy goes out there for 90 minutes. That was rough, to say the least.
Yeah, but Biden really shit the bed because all he needed to do was demonstrate that he is mentally acute, that he has the energy levels, that he can debate, that he's smart and can finish a sentence, and he couldn't do any of it. He completely failed at his really one task, I think, in this debate. I think if he came out and was aggressive and sharp and all, we'd be having a different discussion. But that's completely opposite what happened. I think on the other side, Trump, I actually think he did a pretty good job. I mean, people feel one way or another about the way he says things and his personality, and I'm not a big fan of the way he operates, but he did get across the core message of his, which is, Biden has not been a good leader, chaos around the world, inflation, immigration. And whether those are all on the feet of Biden, that's debatable. It's a complicated world that we live in. But nonetheless, I think Trump sort of executed his goal in the debate. And I think it was probably his best debate. Again, not a high bar, but definitely his best debate. So you have Biden shitting the bed, Trump doing at expectations or even a little above. And so I just do not see how Biden wins anymore. He was already losing in the polls in the swing states. So it's just going to get worse. I don't. And so then we can talk about, all right, does he get replaced? I don't think that he is going to voluntarily step down unless Jill Biden, his wife, implores him to and basically force him to. And that's pure speculation on my part. I don't know the Bidens, obviously, but from what I've read and everything, he's a very proud person. He still thinks he's up to the job, blah, 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 and that he's not going to listen to anyone on this. So I know some of the betting markets are like, they'll replace him. I just don't see that happening.
Well, you also have to realize that now they're a separated party and you really got to get everybody behind the board. The only way they can do it is if they say, all right, our goal is we can't have Trump win. And they're crazy enough to do that. But Biden's not going to step down. It doesn't seem like Jill wants him to step down. I saw the post video. They actually went to another campaign and Jill was hyping up Joe and saying he did a great job and this, that, and the other. So I don't think she wants to step down either. And I think there is obviously people behind the scenes because after you watch that, there's no way that you believe that Biden is running this country. I don't know who's running it, if it's people on his cabinet, if it's his wife running it, like we've had previously in the United States, if it's the Obama leftovers, I don't know. But Biden is not in the right frame of mind that he's making these high-level decisions on a daily basis for macroeconomics and tax cuts and everything else. So I don't think he's going to step down. And also you have to realize they're kind of running out of time. You have to decide who your person is 40 days before the election. We're already to July and the election is in November. So they have maybe 60 days that they could try to get something done, get Biden to step down and get him replaced. And then who do you replace him with? Hillary Clinton's a terrible choice. You got Kamala Harris, which isn't pulling well with anybody but female African Americans. You have Gavin Newsom, who runs California, which is in a terrible situation on multiple fronts. So I just don't know who you can replace him with that could do better in such a short period of time.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, right? And first you have to get, but you can't force him out. Apparently, I was just watching some of it. You can't force him out. He had to have to voluntarily step down. And then, like you said, who do you replace him with? It would have to be done at the convention, which is it hasn't been done this way in like 50 years, and it would be complete chaos. And there's so much uncertainty around it. So I just don't see that happening. So what does this mean? This means, in my view, Trump is going to win.
Right.
I really believe that Trump is going to win now. And so what does that mean for the markets? I mean, my take is it's going to be mostly positive, especially for crypto deregulation, get Gensler out of there, bring in someone pro-crypto, to have more crypto speeches, all that good stuff. The one caveat, the one thing I am concerned about is this 10% tariff on all goods. I don't think that's a good idea. Personally, I don't see how that's going to be good for, inflation and the cost of things. maybe I'm wrong. I'm not like a genius economist or anything like that. I didn't go to school for that, but that doesn't sound good. But the only caveat to what I just said is Trump says a lot of shit. Let's just be
Right.
honest. Trump just says things, and some of it might come true, some of it not. I don't think he really feels so strongly about it.
Well, the
So
thing
I hope
is,
it actually happens, but that
right.
10% tariff thing kind of worries me.
So there's a couple things with the tariffs. Number one, there's actually already a imposed tariff on China that's been going on throughout Trump's presidency, and actually Biden kept it due to the amount of financial income it was bringing for the government. So it has to work on some level if Biden and Democrats kept it. Now, a 10% tariff for all imports, it's really six of one, half dozen of another, and you would have to really do the functional math on what that does for us, the average Joes, the citizens. Because if you're doing a 10% tariff, obviously those goods probably go up. But he's saying do a 10% tariff in order to reduce your income tax. So if individuals save 5,000 a year on income tax, the middle income, but have to spend 2,500 more a year on those products due to the tariffs, they're still coming out net positive 2,500. Now these are just generic numbers. I don't know. I don't know what the math will turn out to be. But if you're an economist brought in by Trump and he's doing the tariff, hopefully you're smart enough to do that math and make it make sense for the middle income. Because really, the middle income is what is missing in America right now, and why we're going through some troubles, and why there is so much lunacy on the far right and the far left. You know, they feel left out. It's hard to survive. It is what it is. But the tariff math could work if you're saving people more taxes than the tariffs add to the cost of goods. Also, those tariffs are guaranteed revenue to the federal government. Hopefully, we can get down that national debt. Now, the national debt is a whole nother issue because interest rates are high. And I always say we don't have a tax problem in this country. We have a spending problem. We need to do what the new president of Argentina did and just get rid of large chunks of the government entities that are overspending and get things back in check. And then you can build back up a bigger government in the future. Because otherwise, you're in this spiral staircase. You're never going to get out of it. And the easiest way to explain it to the average Joe is a lot of people, I know a lot of people have credit card debt because credit card debt is at the near all-time high ever in history. And how hard is it and frustrating is it that you send 500 a month, 1,000 a month, and it seems like you look at that balance and it keeps going backwards? That is because there's compounding interest on that debt, and it is so hard to get ahead of that and it's so hard to pay it off. Now think of that with $40 trillion. That's what the federal government is trying to fight against. And until they start getting that balance down, that interest rate is just insane. But I
Yeah.
do agree with you.
The chickens are going to come home to roost on the debt at some point. Obviously, government can print money, which average person can't do. But the chickens are eventually come home to roost. I see. I wish you had, you just explained the tariff thing better than Trump did.
Right.
You should have
Well,
been up there on the
that's the other thing.
debate
Trump,
stage.
remember, guys, Trump is old too. He has it's like your grandpa in the room. He has all the wisdom, and he probably has good ideas, but he just can't fully explain them to you. He's probably in his head saying it, but not saying it out loud. You know, Biden's way past that road, but Trump, remember, he's old too. He's in the 70s, 78 or something. So,
Exactly. So he goes on tangents, this and that. Maybe
yeah,
the tariff thing works, maybe it doesn't. But I think as it relates to the crypto market specifically, this is nothing but bullish. And I'm surprised that Bitcoin is not up today and Ethereum and so on is not up today. Maybe the markets aren't paying enough attention to stuff. Maybe someone's decided to sell a bunch, some whale, who knows. But to me, like, this is very good
yeah,
for the crypto markets. I did hear I read one thing. There's now enough speculation that Biden is going to be replaced, and then therefore Trump is not a foregone conclusion. But I do not believe that is going to happen. And so to me, Trump is a foregone conclusion, and therefore the market should be up. And I think it's just a matter of time before that does happen. But the biggest thing that I think impacts the markets outside of all this stuff is the interest rates.
yeah,
That's pretty much indisputable. Good news came out today. In fact, I predicted this earlier this week on a short form video. I talked about a set of data that comes out periodically called the Personal Consumption Index or something like that. Personal Consumption, PCE. That is actually the set of data that the Fed, the Federal Reserve, looks much more closely at, even more so than the CPI. And what that set of data said is that inflation is down to 2.6%, its lowest in like 3 years. It shows that these high interest rates are working as intended, which is to bring down inflation. And it signals to me that it is just a matter of time before they have to reverse course and cut the rates. So good news on that front. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that data that come out or anything related to that.
yeah. To start the point, if Trump wins, great for Bitcoin and crypto markets. If RFK Jr. wins, great for Bitcoin and crypto markets. Obviously, both of them. I think RFK Jr. has a better chance than Biden at this point. So that's great for the markets. Now, the reduction in interest rates, also very good. That means inflation is coming down. Now, that doesn't mean the inflation we've had over the past 3.5 years is a race, but they said their goal is 2%. And then they'll start cutting interest rates, which will be positive for both stocks and crypto markets. Also, if you get FOMO in the crypto markets and interest rates are lower, that means people actually take on debt, pour it into speculative assets like Bitcoin, and try to use the Bitcoin outproduction of that interest rate to make money. That is kind of why we blew up in the COVID period. Near zero interest rates, which means free money. People can take that, speculate on collectibles, Bitcoin, and stocks, outperform that low interest rate debt, pay it off, and make the float. So that's what people will do if the interest rates come down. And it's good to see, uh, inflation was a big topic in the debate as well. Biden seems to think that he's done well with inflation. The numbers just don't point that out. 28% inflation in the past 3.5 years under Biden. 4 years under Trump, it was 8%, which was at what? The target of 2% annual average inflation. So we'll see if we get back to that point. We'll see if you're right about those interest rate cuts. And if you have a Trump win plus interest rate cuts, inflation back to 2%, cheap monetary policy, Bitcoin halving, ETH spot ETF, we're still trending in the right direction for the market to move higher. And right now is kind of, in my opinion, the last flush out of, leveraged positions, last flush outs of the weak hands, and really trying to get the Bitcoin into the strong hands. You see Michael Saylor buying another 700 million. Now, why do I think that we're near a low somewhere? Well, you have people like David Portnoy now. Now, David Portnoy magically fumbled his Bitcoin bag. Now he is back in Bitcoin. He bought near the highs at 68,000 again, but he said he is going to take funds from Barstool, his company, $5 to $10 million, and get Bitcoin on that balance sheet, like we've seen with other companies, and they've done it very well. He wants to do that, but here's the caveat. He said he made it sound like it's fact. I'm not going to buy the Bitcoin until we're back into the 40s. And when people start to get so sure that Bitcoin is going to go back into the 40s before they deploy 5 and 10 million, that's not going to happen. He'll be FOMOing into that Bitcoin at 70s and the 80s most likely. So you're starting to see people like, I want to buy Bitcoin. I'm going to buy Bitcoin, but we're definitely going back to the 40s. That's when we don't get to the 40s. That's where the bottom is near. The monetary policy of Bitcoin with the halving and everything else going on, it's a matter of time. What was it last halving? August, September, things started to get exciting and started leaving behind all the people with the dry powder on the sidelines.
Yeah, I wouldn't copy trade Dave Portnoy. He's a funny guy. He built a good business. He seems to live a fun life, but he's not good at trading.
Not a good investor. He's a better gambler.
He always like fuds out at like some whenever it's like the bottom and just never right, and then he fumbles back in at the top. But it is a good sign, and I think long term what you're going to see are more companies and more serious companies, not just Barstool, but like big tech companies, big financial institutions, moving some of their balance sheets out of dollars into Bitcoin. It's a harder asset, doesn't get inflated all the time. It has a better price appreciation, best appreciating asset of the past, ever, really, decade or whatever. So that's going to continue to happen. But I did want to circle back real quick on the interest rates. I don't think we're anywhere near that phase of the interest rate cycle where we're like at 2% or whatever. That was a very specific time during COVID, the government doing what they can to juice the markets and make sure people, stayed afloat. I don't think we get, so what's likely going to happen is, so it's at 5.5% now, the interest rate, something like that. They'll cut it like 0.25%, 0.25 basis points every month or every quarter for, 6 months or a year or whatever. And it'll probably end up bottoming out. I don't see them going extremely low. Unless there's like a recession.
It'd be nice to get back into the threes. Into the threes would be nice.
I can see anywhere between 3 to 4. I think is reasonable. I think but the Fed in all likelihood wants to keep it kind of in the middle ground. They don't want really high and they don't want really low, because that's when you have recessions and then you have booms and busts, right? They want to kind of try to keep in that reasonable middle ground. So we'll see what happens. But nonetheless, once they start that cycle of cutting, that's going to be a huge signal to the market. Move out of these fixed income assets, move into the more speculative stuff. The stock market will pump, Bitcoin will pump. It's just a matter of time. My prediction is still September. Feels like we're very on track for that first cut in September. Maybe October, we'll see, but it's going to be at least once this year, I think, before the election. But let's see how that plays out. Nonetheless, I think it's completely fine. It's all going to be good. Trump is likely going to win, guys. That's really the big takeaway from last night is, and I think the betting markets probably indicated that as much, as he's got to be way ahead in terms of where people think in the betting markets right now, because wow, last night was a debacle for the Biden camp. So we'll see how it all continues to play out. But hope you guys learned something on this channel. Any final thoughts before we jump off for the weekend?
I think that's really it. We're jumping off for the weekend, but stay tuned to see when the SEC announces the Ethereum spot ETF inflows. Really based on people's projections, that could be any day now. That could be up to 10 days, the first week of July. And that's really the next major catalyst for the crypto markets as a whole, and the next major catalyst for the altcoins on the Ethereum network.
Can't wait. All right, guys, have a great weekend. We'll see you on the beach.